Committee of the Department of the Premier. Welcome and feel welcome. I'm going to give an opportunity for a round of introductions by both members as well as the department. And I see Dr. Malila. So yeah, thank you very much. Members.
Matlodi Maseko, member of the Standing Committee.
Good morning, Deirdre Baartman, new member of the Standing Committee.
Good morning, Chairperson. Melika Atako, member of the committee.
Dr. Malila and your team.
Chair, good morning to you and also good morning to all the members of the committee. Thanks for the opportunity. Myself, Harry Malila, I'm the accounting officer for the Department of the Premier. And our team is Hilton Arendse. There's cameras coming on. He's the head of CI. Then we have Augie de Freitas. He's a chief director in my department, also within the CI branch. And his camera is also on. And then I've got Mark Kluter. Mark Kluter is my contract manager, particularly on broadband. And then I just want to check, and I've got Evan here. Evan is also in CI, also responsible for broadband. Thanks, Chair. I think that's it from our side. I'm sure maybe the Premier will join later, but that's our team. Oh, and there's Andre Jumat. I didn't say Andre's name. Andre is my Superintendent General in the Department of the Premier, also responsible for CI matters in the department. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And I see that Member Marais has joined. Member Marais, if you can introduce just for the record, asseblief.
Thank you very much, members. Sorry, I'm a minute late. Peter Marais, Freedom Front Plus.
Thank you very much. And I'm rendering an apology for Member Dugmore, who will not join us. And then I want to say welcome to Wasima Kamish Ahmad, who is our procedural officer. And I also see Masintle Mutsepe. Thank you very much. And then to the IT personnel that is on the platform, thank you very much for making this happen. Without any further ado, it is quite a lengthy document that we have received. I am then giving over to you, Dr. Malila, for the presentation so that we can get the show on the road. Thank you very much.
Chair, good morning again to you, and thank you very much. I think this is our first meeting with you as the chairperson, so we're really, I think, glad that we can get the show on the road. There is a formal apology for Premier. I mean, Premier can't make it, but Premier is aware of this presentation, so for the record, we've also cleared it with our executive authority. Chair, we're not going to take anything more than 20 minutes. I've already briefed my team this morning. It's a detailed presentation for your purposes. Obviously, it deals with two matters, broadband, so also to give the members an idea of what's going on in that space. And then the second issue, more importantly, is the issue around cybersecurity. I mean, you've seen the recent papers, the recent documents on that particular matter. So I've asked my team to provide you with as much information as possible. But for the presentation purposes, we will only touch on a couple of key points. And the presentation will be conducted by Hilton, and he's also going to pull in Augie as well as Mark, and they will take us through it. So Hilton, I'm going to give straight over to you, and as committed, we're not going to take more than 20 minutes. So it's 3 minutes past 10 now, and then we can open up the meeting for some comments and questions. Chair, with your approval, can I hand over to Hilton?
Please continue, Mr. Arendse. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Chairperson. Thanks, Gigi. Chairperson and members, thanks so much for this specific session. The presentation will largely be done by Mark and Augie, and I will do the conclusion then. But I just need to contextualize the scope of the work that we're doing within this specific space so that you can understand the importance of the broadband in our environment and also the importance of the information security. So in general, if you look at the number of users we have, there are 30,000 users stretched across the province. We have in the corporate environment, education, libraries, nursing colleges, and agriculture, total of 30,000 users. And we use about 20,000, 21,000 workstations across these different areas. We have 420 applications. And then, as you can see, all of the other devices, the different sites that we have that will be covered in the broadband presentation. And we consume a WAN volume of an average 250 terabytes. And we have the public Wi-Fi hotspots that we're also dealing with. But all of these elements in the ecosystem requires end-user support, user management, infrastructure management, an array of services that we need to provide. But nothing in any of the ecosystem, this enabling ecosystem that we have and that we're doing, will be of any value if we do not have connectivity and if we do not have information security. And this is why this presentation is so important. And the key issues that the committee asks us to present on are the foundational for this specific province in terms of how we deliver services. If we cannot have proper connectivity, our offices can't work. And if there's no information security, we won't have trust in the system, the information won't be credible, and won't be able to manage our budget and our funding properly, because it will all be at risk. So colleagues, I'm going to hand over to Mark to do the presentation on broadband, and then also Ovi will take us through the information security. And as I said, I'll conclude after that. So Mark, you might take over the screen again.
Thank you very much, Hilton, and good morning, members and colleagues. I trust you can see my presentation.
Indeed, we can.
Thank you, Chairperson. So I would like to talk to you briefly to start off the presentation about the Western Cape Government Broadband Programme. Thank you for the opportunity for providing the update to this committee. And we thought to just start with some of the fundamentals that Hilton touched on in his previous introductory slide. Just explaining the importance of broadband in terms of connecting Western Cape Government to itself, to national government, to the municipalities, and to the rest of the world through the internet. So broadband is essentially the core infrastructure or pipes that come into each of our buildings. And generally it's regarded as minimum speeds of 10 megabits per second and higher. And those are usually measured on an upload and download basis. And this enables West Cape Government to transfer data and receive data and make use of digital tools such as the basics of email and the internet, and then some of the applications that have become commonplace in our lives today, such as Microsoft Teams, and some of the many other applications that are used across the government administration. Particularly, these are relevant in the health and education environments and have enabled some drastic efficiencies through the operations and improved service deliveries for those departments in particular. But the benefits are across the board, and I'll touch on them briefly in the next slide. The broadband program in its current state was conceptualized off the strategic framework, which was approved by Provincial Cabinet in 2011. And the key objectives of that framework was to improve provincial and local government service delivery through a kind of work stream that was titled Connected Government. The second key objective was to improve citizens' access to communications infrastructure and essentially decreasing the digital divide by expanding connectivity, particularly in areas that previously didn't have. And that workflow was known as Connected Citizens. And lastly, we set out with an objective to open up new opportunities and new markets to the Western Cape businesses and improve competitiveness through a workstream known as Connected Economy. These goals were implemented through a tender process that was conducted through CETA, and it resulted in the appointment of Liquid Intelligent Technologies, or it was called Neotel at that point when the contracts were signed in 2014. And the scope of the program was to include all Western Cape Government sites. So that includes our corporate and administration sites, all our schools, our healthcare institutions, libraries, particularly on the Rural Library Project, and our Cape Access Centres. The telecommunications network was built in such a way that it enabled unified communications. So That effectively means that data, voice, and video traffic could pass over these networks. And it also enabled the installation of public Wi-Fi hotspots, as Hilton mentioned earlier. The network infrastructure provides access to government clients, and it's also open or is able to provide connectivity to businesses as per LIT's own strategic mandate, because they do own the infrastructure that they are rolling out for the project. This slide touched, like I mentioned earlier, on a few of the business value that has been obtained through the broadband project. Some of the primary value aspects include improved productivity due to the high network capacity that the program can provide, and that ultimately results in improved services to our citizens. Some of these you may well have seen through the COVID crisis, where many of our field hospitals were set up in a fully digital manner, and realized great efficiencies through that. We've managed to move a lot of our workloads into the cloud, so that enables working from anywhere, more secure and available applications for use across administration. The fact that we've put all the Western Cape government networks, or sorry, sites onto a single network has enabled financial cost efficiencies over the course of the last 8 years, with 2 years left on the contract. And we've also enabled public Wi-Fi access through the contract. Some of the secondary values there, again, relate to our ability to collaborate and work via platforms such as Microsoft Teams, where we were one of the first entities nationally to switch over to Teams in a very short space of time. We've reduced our investment in ICT infrastructure off the back of our improved broadband, and enabled innovation and other network providers to improve their connectivity to citizens and businesses by using the core footprint of infrastructure that LIT has built throughout our province, and particularly in areas that previously didn't have any of this type of broadband infrastructure. Because CETA is also a key partner on the project, they are able to add national and local government sites onto the network as well, which will further improve efficiencies for those sites and for CETA as an organization. This slide gives you an overview of the status of the sites that are connected to broadband. So in total, we have 1,911 Western Cape government sites connected to the network today. A large proportion of those are schools, followed by health facilities and libraries. And you will see that they are separated according to different speed targets. So phase 1 of the broadband project set out to connect all of our sites at initial speeds of 10 megabits per second. Phase 2 of the project started in October 2017, and is running until the end of September this year, whereby all of our sites are upgraded to minimum speeds of 100 megabits per second. And phase 3 will then start from October this year and run for the final 2 years of the contract. And all of our sites will be upgraded to minimum speeds of 1 gigabit per second. A few of our sites are on 10 gigabits per second to enable improved efficiencies at our key corporate sites. But we can see from the slide that at the end of May, there was a total of 1,549 of our sites that are upgraded already to 100 megabits per second, for a total of 81% of all of our sites. The remaining 19% will be connected at the higher speeds by the end of September this year. And as I mentioned, phase 3 then starts from October this year, where our speeds will be upgraded to 1 gigabit per second and further enable additional possibilities through connectivity for our schools and hospitals specifically. This slide then gives you an overview of the public Wi-Fi hotspots that are built on top of the core infrastructure that is coming into each of our Western Cape government buildings. So from the 1,911 buildings that are on the broadband project, we've got a target of installing 1,600 Wi-Fi hotspots across the province, and particularly particular prioritization has been given to rural and previously underserviced sites that didn't necessarily have good connectivity, again with the ultimate goal of closing the digital divide. At the moment, at the end of May, we had 1,302 Wi-Fi complete sites. So that's a total of 81% of our ultimate target of 1,600. At the bottom of the slide on the left-hand side graph, it gives you a picture of the progress of installations in the dark blue color over the last few months, with planned installations for the Wi-Fi project in the coming months. So we can see that there's quite a rapid increase in installation of Wi-Fi hotspots. And this is off the back of the improved broadband connectivity that's coming to our sites. So the Wi-Fi hotspots can only be installed at Western Cape government sites that have phase 2 speeds of 100 megabit per second. So as all our sites are upgraded from the first initial speeds of 10 megabits per second to 100 megabits per second, they become eligible for Wi-Fi hotspots. And if they comply with the project objectives in terms of providing connectivity to underserviced areas and rural areas, then Wi-Fi hotspots are installed at those sites. So we hope to reach the full total of 1,600 sites by the time that the phase 2 project timeline is completed, which is the end of September this year. The next couple of slides will just give you a bit of a picture of what's happening on the Wi-Fi network, so what our citizens and some of our businesses are doing on the Wi-Fi network. And we can see from the top graph that there's a number of new subscribers that come to the network during a particular month, and in subsequent months they then return as returning subscribers, while other new subscribers log onto the network for the first time. The top graph is reset at the beginning of every calendar year, just so that we get a better picture of how many new and returning subscribers come onto the network month on month. But in summary, during April 2022, which is the last verified information we have, we had a total of almost 310,000 users on the network from all the different sites in the provinces, in the municipalities. Just to note that each of our municipalities does have at least 3 Wi-Fi hotspots as we stand today. The bottom graph gives you an overview of some of the data usage. So during April, there was a total of 216 terabytes of data, and that equates to an average of about 683 megabytes per user per month. On the Wi-Fi network at the moment, any citizen is able to access on their device. There's no login required. They just need to click through to access the internet, and each device gets an allocation of 3 gigabytes of data per month. So we can see from the average number that most people aren't using the full allocation, but that is available to everyone that connects. This final slide then provides you an overview of some of the sites that are most in use in terms of data passing over those particular hotspots. And we can see Bloekombos Secondary, which is in Kraaifontein, is clear leader in that space, with over 2 terabytes of usage. And we can then see some Robertson sites coming through in Masakeke Combined and Mqubela Clinic, and Kroonheuwel Libraries in Paarl. So it's really nice to see some of our more rural and sites outside of the city making use of the hotspots, which was exactly the intention. The bottom graph then just provides an overview of time of day of use of the hotspots. So from about 7 o'clock, we can see the network traffic picks up in the morning, peaking at around 1 o'clock every day, and then tapering off towards the evening around 9 or 10 o'clock, when I suppose most people go to bed. So again, this network is available 24/7 in order to maximize usage and opportunities for citizens in these areas. And it's good to see that they're making use of it. So that covers us from the broadband perspective, Chairperson.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mark. Can I then hand over to Augie? Augie, Mark will drive the slides for you. You should just request him to forward the slides once you're done. So, Mark.
Okay, I think I'll just take over and share from my side.
Okay, thanks so much.
It'll be easier for my. Thank you. Good morning, honourable members, and it's a privilege for me to be here to share and give you some insight into what we're doing in cybersecurity or information security. As you've know pretty well, just trying to get to the right place, you probably would have heard of many attacks that have taken place, successful attacks that have damaged organizations or have damaged infrastructure or have damaged many things right across South Africa, and particularly our government sites like SASSA, Home Affairs, and even our ESCOM sites and others. And you can see that it has resulted in different types of damage: network failures, aging infrastructure, power outages, and of course the big one is cyber attacks on all of the above. And these are all integrated, they're not independent of each other, but ultimately the net result is a disruption in the business of these departments, and of course it disrupts service delivery to our citizens. More recent attacks has been around that Justice Department that has happened. We had the Transnet cyber attack that you all heard of, and even our National Space Agency didn't escape severe attacks. So what do we do as a province, as an IT organization to protect our organization? As Hilton mentioned, it is huge. We've got a massive IT footprint into the organization. And from the outset, I just want to say that you need two things to fight security. You need solid connectivity, that we can get to our workstations and our services a lot faster to repair them and fix them should there be an attack. And also the broadband has enabled far better information security from our space at reduced cost. So we've got an approach of looking at our threats in our various risk domains. And as you probably have heard us say before, that effective IT security is a good balance between what we do in technology around our people and also our processes. And if you look at technology, there's a whole lot of things that we're focusing on. Obviously, the big ones that we're focusing on is end-user devices, particularly memory sticks, because everybody's got games on that. Everybody copies documents and movies and all sorts of other things to that. And that is one of the biggest mediums of transmitting viruses into organizations or potential attacks and that sort of stuff. We also look at our browsers, like our internet browsers, and we try and secure them as much as possible. Internet and social media, we try and protect that as much as we can. We focus hugely on access and password protection because that's pretty crucial. We're continuously strengthening our passwords. Obviously, we're looking at cloud services, and particularly personal cloud services where it can be used as a platform to attack our organization. On the process side, we've got two big focus areas: is managing security incidents or breaches. How do we detect them? How do we have visibility over them? And how do we react to them, and how we restore services as quickly as possible? On the people side, we are focused quite substantially on awareness programs around our users, because we've got a huge base, almost 30,000 people out there. We're trying to change the behavior, the work culture around cybersecurity to become very cybersecurity conscious, not to click on links that they shouldn't. And also, we mustn't forget that throughout the organization, as many other organizations across the world, we need to manage disgruntled employees and managers. So we need to have things in place that will protect the organization from them, particularly in the IT space. Obviously, all of this stuff is underpinned by legislation and strong governance and strong controls that we're continuously improving on. Just to give you an idea, and we're just going to focus on two of our dashboards. On the one dashboard here, you will see that our firewall has seen many attacks. I'm just taking a 1 month snapshot of last year between August to September last year, where we had quite a huge spike in attacks across the world. We were no different to anybody across the world, but we were able to successfully protect our organization, for example, against 18,000 malware attacks in 1 month. If you look at the next dashboard that we have, just gives you an idea how many attacks we've had to defend in a particular moment in time. 650 million attacks that we get. And of course, we use automated software, automated tools that simply just protects us automatically against the organization. But this is just simply to give you a sense of what is happening in the IT security space, how big it is, and what we detect, because visibility is absolutely essential, and then how do we react. And of course, we focus on the automation of tools to do the automation of detection and prevention, and also repairs in many areas. Just to give us, as this is an oversight committee, we thought it'd be good for you to have a sense of where we are in the information security maturity space. How well are we doing, and how do we benchmark against organizations? I'll give you two models. The one is the Gartner model that we follow, and on that model, we scored a 2 out of 5. Now, organizations across the world around our size are more or less at that level. And everybody's trying to move to level 3 over the next 2 to 3 years, which is also our plan. If you look at the particular areas, individual areas within that particular assessment, some of our areas are pretty good. We're already on 4+. We've got a lot of areas where we have scored 4s. But in some of the areas, we got 1s as well, and those are focus areas for the next year or 2 or 3. And we're no different to anywhere in the world. You look at your highest risk areas, you focus on those, and those have been worked on over the past couple of years. That's why we're at 4s out of 5s in that particular space. The good news in this space is that we have no 0s or -1s. Where do we want to get to? We do want to get from a level 3 to a level 3 over the next 2 to 3 years, and then thereafter would like to get to level 4, but that will require significant investment, as we've seen with many organizations that have reached that level. And there are not many organizations that have in fact reached a level 4. Most on around about 2, between 2 and 3. They're all aspiring to 3, and later on to get to 4. So we also did what we call a risk recon assessment. It's another view of looking at our environment. We did a whole network scan, and we also followed another framework. And in this particular one, we scored a 6.8 out of 10. So it's looking at various facets of the network. We see in some areas we've scored a 10, in others areas we've scored an 8, others we're pretty average at 3. And the one area that we want to focus on is application security. So using this different model, it tells us don't zero in on that, and that is going to be our efforts for the next 2 to 3 years. How are we mitigating our security risks? I'm just going to take you through some of the ways that we get attacked. Phishing, you probably heard of them, of that one. Phishing is a way of getting in. I'm going to just bring to your attention 3 types of phishing, which you're going to hear very significantly over the next couple of months and probably over the next year or 2. Whaling. Whaling is a type of attack, phishing attack, that targets important people like yourselves, executives, and crucial employees. So they specifically targeted for the position that they're in, and they use that to achieve their objectives. Smithing is another attack that uses SMS, and it uses WhatsApp and any other thing, other social media type of communication, to launch an attack, either a specific attack on a person or an organization or a particular area of the organization. Then we've got spear phishing, and spear phishing is a very dangerous one because they target specific users or specific organizations based on the research that they've done around individuals. And they look at annual reports, like our annual reports that we publish, and so forth and so on. They look at media releases, and they look at social media environments and your social media presence, and they draft a little profile on that particular individual. And it's normally, it will be, well, it can be any individual in the organization, actually, but they'll obviously will target the more high-end ones. And they've done a lot of research, and they know exactly where to focus their attack to get these primarily personal information. So this is to give you a sense of the types of attack that have become very, very prevalent. I'm not going to go too much into this slide. The next slide, I'm just going to give you a sense as to what we're doing about all those attacks. We have focused on educating our users. The first time we did a test where we actually tested our users, we created the simulation test. We sent links to our user community, and we via email, and we watched their reaction and their behavior. And in March 2020, 15% of our people clicked on links that they shouldn't have clicked, that we simulated. Now, if that was an email attack that was in the environment, 15% of our people would have been infected. And they probably would have propagated that further and created chaos in the organization. As a result of all our awareness programs, we did a testing about a year later in January, and that was brought down to about 13%. We then continue with our awareness programs, and the last one that we did was in July last year. We brought it down to 7.6. And we're continuing with this on an ongoing basis to get this particular area down so that we in a far better protected space. An area that we are working on, particularly post-COVID, or sorry, during COVID and also post-COVID, is people working from home. How do we manage those devices? How do we update those devices? And there are many things that we are doing. I'm not going to focus on all of them. All I'm going to mention is that, on highlight one or two, is that we've got very comprehensive email filtering services. Not only does it filter 99% of rubbish email and emails that have got attacked malware with it and all sorts of other things, but it protects our email environment pretty well. And we haven't had much in that space as far as attacks are concerned, because the software is doing its job, these tools are doing their job, and we're protecting our users from themselves. We're also managing devices. We've come up with a solution where now people can update the machines at home, do all the patches and software at home. They don't have to come into the office. But when they do into office, we automatically do it for them and catch up anyway. Again, I've mentioned our user awareness campaign. May, June this year, we already started with our next awareness campaign, and we hope to finish by the 30th of June. And we're going to focus on the spear phishing that I mentioned earlier. We're going to focus on making users aware of what information they put out there in the public domain, what information we put in public reports, and so forth and so on, that could be gleaned to have an attack or form a strategy to have an attack on individuals, to gain their credentials, their passwords, sign-on codes, and that sort of stuff. And throughout this year, we're going to continue with we're educating our users and with our awareness campaigns. We're going to be looking at social media, when people overshare information, the protection of personal information, cloud security, and even in December, we're going to have something around the cyber safe holidays. We've got a whole lot of activities to address our risk recon that I mentioned earlier. We're focusing primarily on these areas right across the board. Software management of all our servers, our devices, and particularly our end user equipment, so that they remain at a relatively high level of security. Application security, as I said earlier, we're definitely going to be focusing on that going forward. We're also looking at web encryption. So anything that goes out of organization is automatically encrypted in one way or another. We've disabled protocols that are not as secure as what they should be, and we've replaced them with encryption certificates that are far, far stronger. Email security I've mentioned earlier, and we'll continue with that one because that's one of the biggest application that we have. Systems hosting, although we've moved most of our stuff into the cloud where it's far better protected, we still continue to do all sorts of neat things in that space to protect our environment. And of course, the user awareness campaign will continue with it because we feel that that's pretty important. In conclusion, we have to embrace digital transformation. We don't have a choice. We've got to take advantage of that to improve delivery to our citizens. But with it comes the threat of more and more attacks and more sophisticated attacks and more in-depth attacks on a daily basis. And that's why we've investing continuously in these tools and also strengthening our environment. So we'll continue to strengthen our technical and our governance capability. We've just awarded 2 contracts to service providers. One is to strengthen our governance base around cybersecurity and ICT security in general, as well as the technical expertise that we require from outside to help us when things happen, and also be proactive as well. The most common threats on our network is malware, phishing, password stealing vulnerabilities, and weaknesses relating to old legacy applications, which we're helping departments to address. And then, of course, to assist us with our cybersecurity response, we focus on automation, on tools that automatically detect, isolate, repair, and protect us against attacks. We are not immune to security breaches. No matter how much security we are not immune. However, we are preparing ourselves and protecting as much as what we can so that we have the least number of threats or attacks in our organization. And people, unfortunately, remain the weakest link in the cybersecurity chain, and that's why we're having a huge focus on people and security awareness and all of those things that go with it. And that concludes my presentation, and I say thank you.
Thanks, Ogie. Chairperson, I'd just like to link to Ogie's last point when you mentioned that we're not immune to security breaches. And it links to my first point that I've made when I did the summary, in that the estate, that the entire state of ecosystem, each one of those points is a point of vulnerability. It's where we can be exploited, be it in the user space or in the infrastructure space or in the network space, all of those. And that's why this presentation was so critical in terms of and the two that's been asked by the standing committee specifically is that these two working very closely together are very important in enabling our organization. We're doing a lot of work. We have also made presentations to our provincial treasury, and we must acknowledge that they've been very forthcoming in terms of funding some of the initiatives, specifically in the information security area. And we need to thank them also in their understanding of this process. But then also just from my side to thank the DG and the SG for their understanding and giving us full support for all our interventions that we're having in this space. Thanks, Chairperson.
Hilton, thank you very much for that. Chairperson, that concludes our presentation. Hopefully it provides a lot of information. Members can still engage and interact with it. And I mean, if there's any further information you require, we can even submit it to you in writing, or if you require any specific information relating to CCI, we can also do that. So Chair, from our side, thank you very much. And Hilton, Augie and Mark, thank you very much for the presentation. We open to questions here. Back to you.
Thank you very much, DG. And I also want to say thank you to Hilton, Augie and Mark. And what a comprehensive presentation and information. And yes, I would also say to members, if they need more information on what we have received, they are also obliged to pose parliamentary questions or put it in the recommendations of today if they need any further information. With that said then, members, I am opening up for questions to this presentation that we have received this morning. So I am noting you. Are you there? Member Bartman and Member Marais?
Thank you so much. I wanted to find out from the DG and his team, Bloekombos Secondary School had the highest user engagements in terms of the broadband. And in one of the slides, it really spoke to more of like access to the teachers. And I wanted to find out the users in those top 10 users, were they mostly employees and teachers, or were they learners? Because if they were learners, it'd be interesting to know what is Bloekombos Secondary doing correctly that so many other schools with computer labs aren't necessarily attracting the amount of learners into its respective computer labs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Marais?
Thank you so much, Chair. This sounds all very impressive, and I'm sure everybody's impressed, but I'm also sure that I don't know of the rest, but I am not a guru in terms of IT, so I'll have to accept what you said is the truth, and all is the truth, nothing but the truth. So we'll just have to accept what you're saying. We've got to trust you because it's very technical in nature. So I'm going to come down to the layman's terms on my question, and I'm not going to compete with you on technicalities. Our broadband system, how effective is it in areas like Lensburg and Beaufort West at the schools? Because last time we went on an oversight visit, the children sat there with computers which they couldn't use at the schools because there was no Wi-Fi. And then I would like to ask you, how did our system of people having to register online if they didn't register for the census, there was now opportunity to prove our worth. How did we help the poor people in that respect who didn't have access to broadband or to Wi-Fi to fill in their forms for the census? How efficient is it? And our system, does it allow hospitals in the platteland to stay in contact with teaching academic hospitals in Cape Town if there's an emergency at these regional hospitals which they don't know how to treat it? Can they consult the professors at Grooterskie and Tygerberg? And is such a system operating at the moment? I want to come down to the layman's interest in IT. I'm going to try and question you on all the words you mentioned about WAN and all that, cybersecurity. It's Dutch or Greek to me. So I would like those 3 questions, if you could perhaps answer me on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Marie. I'd also just like to know, in regard to the online application, school application, how closely are you working with the WCED in making that a smooth process? Because right now it's still yet not a smooth process. Parents are still struggling in that online application. So if you have that relationship, can you shed some light as to why we still have still many challenges around that? Then in regard to the sites that you have mentioned, the 1,302 sites that you have spoken about, I want to know, in regard to when those sites have challenges, connecting challenges or technical challenge, where, firstly, maybe you should update me as to how it is spread. And then I'm latching my question then onto what Member Marie is asking. If we look at our far-flung areas, when they have challenges, how near is technical support for them? Or do they need to consult with, as they refer to, they need to consult with head office in Cape Town? So if you can just shed some light on that, and then by your own evaluations, and especially where our users, end users, are communities. When last have you done an evaluation to get the feedback from the end user as to how, do I want to say good? I don't want to say good, but how this technology is working for them. Maybe I should just say that. And then that seems it is the round of questions. I note that Member Marie's hand is still raised.
I'm so sorry. I will down my hand now. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Marie. DG, thank you.
Chairperson, thank you very much. And let me first say thank you to Member Bartman as well as Member Marie for those questions. I'm going to just start with the questions raised by Member Marie, and particularly around the effectiveness of the system in areas like the Karoo, like Laingsburg and Beaufort West. I mean, I'm pleased to announce that post the oversight visit that Member Marie and some of the members, of this committee did, Laingsburg High School as well as the Kasia Primary School now have free Wi-Fi from the department, and it's been provided by my department, and it's actually around 3 gigabytes per device per month. In addition to that, I mean, we've also provided smart classrooms, and that was provided by the Department of Education. We've enabled them, obviously, because it must be technology enabled, as well as if you go back to Laingsburg High School, you will also see that that school is also now regarded as a no-fee school, and obviously in terms of the norms and standards from education. But my team has been actively engaged, particularly as it relates to Laingsburg High School, as well as the primary school in the area. So I actually invite Member Marie maybe to do a post visit, follow-up visit, and to see some of these advancements. In addition to that, if Member Marie and the rest of the committee goes to the Karoo again, you will also see that we have many Wi-Fi spots, and we can provide you with the detail, both in Laingsburg as well as in Beaufort West. And then what you can see is, I mean, we even see it in Cape Town, in some of our areas. If you have a free Wi-Fi spot, you generally have a congregation of people congregating, either around the school or around the hospital, etc. So I invite the committee to do that. Then, Chair, I also need to acknowledge, I think, and I mean, probably Hilton or Mark or Evan can talk about it. We are working very hard with Liquid. In fact, we're pushing them very hard with regards to installing free Wi-Fi hotspots in the remote areas. And I mean, there are some areas where we're not, fully covered, but it remains a struggle with these far outlying areas like Mareesburg, the Nelspruit and the Merwelwolf, even some of these areas on the west coast. But we're getting there, and I mean, we're engaging with Liquid, we're engaging with the respective municipalities, because we believe that whether you're in Cape Town or whether you sit in Merwelwolf or whether you sit in Nelspruit, you need to have access to information. You need to be able to have the same opportunities if you're a child in a school as somebody that sits within the city of Cape Town. So we're working very hard on that. Chair, on the issue around the online system as it relates to census, the last census or the census that have closed something like 2 days ago. I mean, I've personally been involved in that. I mean, Premier tasked me as the head of the administration to get involved when they were sitting at something like 42%. In fact, we worked very hard, assisted Stats SA, not necessarily with the count, but obviously a lot with communicating to communities, getting the messaging out there. And in fact, post our communication and assisting them, you've actually seen the numbers of people completing online applications growing substantially. I need to also indicate to Member Marais, we didn't necessarily have to sort of get involved in relation to our broadband, because access to the Stats SA website, you didn't require any data to go onto that website. So you could complete your stats questionnaire either by your phone or by an iPad or by computer using the free where that Stats SA have provided. But I mean, from our side, we have assisted them. On the issues around connecting hospitals in the metro, particularly our 3 teaching hospitals with some of the rural hospitals, that's exactly what broadband is doing. That's exactly what broadband is enabling. We can actually take Member Marais to Groote Schuur, to some of these teaching hospitals, and what you will get nowadays is a doctor or a medical professional sitting maybe somewhere in Beaufort West, maybe take a scan of somebody, and that person can actually via our network send it to somebody in Groote Schuur Hospital, and they can actually even give advice from some of these tertiary hospitals what to do and what not to do. So our broadband have actually enabled that, and you will see, Chair, I think currently at Groote Schuur Hospital we're running at I think 10 gig per second at some of these tertiary hospitals. If you look at that one slide that was presented by Hilton, but I mean, they can also talk about it. But it's exactly what we wanted to do. Then on the question of from Member Wartman around Bloekombos, I mean, Hilton, you can probably respond to that, but we've got our whole tech center. And I mean, I'd also like to invite Member Bartman and whoever wants to accompany her to join me on the 4th floor. I mean, Premier was there a couple of times to just observe what it is that we're doing. What is it that we're monitoring? How do we monitor our network? What is going on at the schools? What is the kind of stuff that they are looking at? Who's looking at the stuff, whether it's teachers, whether it's learners? Because at the end of the day, what we want to see an increase in the outcome of the results. So if you're sitting at the school like Bloekombos and you've got Wi-Fi enabled, you are potentially the biggest user, do we see a jump in your matric results? Do we see a jump in terms of people staying in school? And do we actually see a change in the education outcomes? Because that is why we offer. So Hilton, you can maybe just respond to that question. And then lastly, to the questions raised by the Chair, Honourable Botha. I mean, we're working hand in hand with the Department of Education. The members will also note this year in particular, we had less problems with the online system. The system went down basically the last day when everybody was frankly trying to see whether their kids have been accepted or not, but it only went down for a very, very small time. And I mean, our team was on it, and they could actually reactivate the entire system. But we're working hand in hand with education. So Augie, I mean, you are the guy that sort of built on that relationship. If you can maybe also just deal with that, because I mean, we're giving them all the technical support. And then maybe Evan, in your response, if you can maybe also just touch on what we're doing with regards to the feedback from the end user, because obviously we're also, testing continuously what is sort of our network speed, whether people are happy with what they're getting, and how or what is it that we need to do to actually improve our entire system, and particularly around the public Wi-Fi areas. So Hilton, can I first ask you to come in, and then Evan, and then Augie? Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, DG, and thanks for that input that you've given, DG. And member or chairperson and members, you need to understand sometimes DG come up with answers that I wouldn't even thought of. So thanks for that. And DG was most probably a CIO in his previous life. So as it relates to Member Bartram's first question in terms of the schools, Member Bartman, whilst we did put the name of Bloekombo Secondary there, it's not the school that has done something, it's where the Wi-Fi hotspot is located, and it's community facing. So it's a number of people in the community that access it. So it depends on where it's located and how close that community is to that facility or the accessibility of that Wi-Fi hotspot, and that will determine the usage also. So in that sense, I can't tell you what the school did right, because it's not really in the school's LAN environment. It's more external in terms of what the citizens' utilization is. But as I said, it also depends on how accessible that hotspot is. All of them are publicly facing. People can exit from outside of the school. None of the Wi-Fi hotspots allowed people to go into the school. But then also, in some cases, there's a dense population immediately next to the school, and that population then, or the residents, they benefit from the service. So I'll ask Mark to respond to the questions pertaining to the support and also the user satisfaction and whether they're satisfied with the service, Chairperson. But just in terms of the online schools application, we are working very closely with the education department, and we also inform them as to where the facilities are that citizens can go so that they can do the online application and be facilitated. So one of the areas will be in the Cape Access Centres where citizens can go and they can register the kids in school. But we are also working very closely with not only the education department, but through the education department, we now will be working with the South African Principals Association, because they also have some things that they need us to assist them in terms of the usability of the system. So as it relates to online school application, working very closely with the department in terms of providing facilities, that's the Cape Access facilities, and then also assisting them with obviously the technical part of it. As it is indicated, it was down for an hour or so, but we managed to get it up and running quickly. And the new iteration of the online application solution is going to be even better, Chairperson. As I said, we are now working with the users themselves in that regard. Not only those users who need to capture, but also the schools who need to do the admin around it. Can I hand over to Mark just to discuss, to give feedback on the tech support, Mark, and then also on the user satisfaction, if any?
Sure, Hilton, and thanks, Chairperson, for the questions in that regard. So in terms of the installation of the hotspots at each site, this is undertaken through an initial survey in collaboration with the site owner or manager, so either the principal or the library manager or the head nurse, etc., at each of the sites, who consents to the best place to install the hotspot, and the signal is then projected outside the site to the nearby community, as Hilton has described, to allow citizens to access it without having to come on site and affect the service delivery that's being delivered at each of the sites. So when things go wrong, there is a signboard that's installed at each Wi-Fi hotspot as soon as it's activated, at least one, in most cases multiple signboards indicating that there is Wi-Fi access in the area. The signboard points people or directs people on how to connect to the hotspot and then provides support information. The first line support is with the Liquid call center, because they are the managers of the network, and so all calls are logged with them initially for troubleshooting with the user and resolution. But sometimes we obviously do have issues with sites where the community is possibly using it late at night and causing disruption, and we do have a whole risk mitigation process from a Western Cape government perspective to address those types of issues. Load shedding, power outages, etc., also cause for challenges at the sites. And in those cases, the first line Liquid support address those issues, and anything outside of those, like I mentioned, is escalated to WCG project team. The sites are also regularly visited by our project team. So I suppose it ties in with the Premier's focus on us being citizen obsessed and trying to get out to frontline delivery, where our team is out at least once a month visiting a selection of or a sample of sites to speak to the community around, speak to some of the users like DG mentioned who are congregated using the hotspot, trying to get an understanding of what they're doing on the network, whether they use all their data, whether there's room for improvement in the direction that the signal's facing, etc. So that happens on a monthly basis, but we also have online reporting tools where we can see whether hotspots are down or having high utilization, and we are able to monitor that system as well. Like I said, for Liquid's initial intervention, but for Western Cape government to then help with our own risk mitigation activities on top of that. So I hope that covers those two aspects, Chair.
Thank you very much for that responses to the round of questions raised. Members, do you still have any questions that you want to pose?
Sorry.
Speaker's not here, Member Marais.
I confused you. Sorry.
Member Bartman and then Member Marais.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to find out, does the broadband team in the Premier's office work with the MOD and the Year Beyond volunteers and group of people who assist, especially, for example, in our schools and after-school programs? Because something that we've been picking up on oversight is some of our schools have very beautiful computer labs and libraries. They have Wi-Fi and all of these extra niceties. But sometimes the schools struggle with having someone there to man the classroom or to assist the learners who want to come and do their printing to learn online on the computers. So if WCED is able to then work with MOD and Year Beyond volunteers for those after school, even during school programs for learners, and if the Premier's department is able to come together to maybe assist them with training for some of the more technological aspects, then I do think it might create a culture within our schools where no computer lab and no library is left unmanned within the Western Cape province. And then I just want to thank the DG and his team for the invite to the tech center, and I hope that we'll maybe be able to go do oversight in order to see how the system does work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Bartman. Member Marais.
Chair Lady, I am particularly impressed by the very comprehensive response I got to my two questions. I think we can just settle and compliment this department for excellent work. They're on the ball, they're obviously highly qualified, and they've been very open about answering questions, which sometimes is a rare thing I experience in committees where they sort of shy away from direct answers. I'm very impressed that the rural areas will now be looked after in terms of being able to access a Wi-Fi, and I'm also impressed that the whole issue in the health department, where they might be able to do certain medical treatments in the rural areas themselves under supervision of the academic professors without having to send the ambulance 300 kilometers to come here to Grooteskies for operations they would have been able to perform could they do it via the social media, whatever you call it. They call it TV medicine. They would be able to do it that way. And I think that they're on the right track. We should compliment them. And from my side, I say, well done.
Thank you very much, Member Marais, for that compliment that you are giving to the department. I just want to ask the DG, and maybe more to Mr. Arendse than yourself, DG. There was a complaint lodged by the Dorp Street Clinic. And also what they are saying is that their Wi-Fi and the connectivity is still not up and running, or it is very bad, the connectivity. They launched in February this year, but now they only have one phone that are working there. And then also the facility manager also said at the time and that she needs to give out her cell phone number to patients to make contact with the clinic. Can you give any update on this very issue? And then I want to ask, in regard to the awareness that you are going to create, I think it was one of the slides that Mark spoke to us too. Do you have SALGA as a potential partner, if I can say that you are going to engage with, so that counselors that works in the front line in our communities, so that they are also aware of the seriousness of cyber attack and security. If you can shed some light on that. Thank you.
Chair, thank you very much for that. I mean, maybe I must just comment on some of your last comments. Obviously, the next step for us is to present to Cabinet, on the issue of the cyber security, which obviously it's also a risk to the executive. Then what we want to do as a next step is then to engage the municipalities through the Premier's Coordinating Council and also the MM Forum. We do that in concert with the Department of Local Government. And SALGA normally attends that meeting. The chairperson of SALGA in the province, Khalil, he normally attends it, but if needed, we can also extend such a presentation to SALGA. But our connection is via local government, via the PCF. Hilton, you can maybe just respond to the complaint at Dorset, but Chair, I can also give you the commitment if that's not sorted. Our team will be on it, and I mean, we'll probably sort it out early next week if it's not sorted, but Hilton can actually give a response to that. Then, Chair, thank you, Member Marais, for, I think, your complimentary comments. I mean, my proposal would actually be that we can write to the Chair that we can set up a visit to both Groote Schuur Hospital as well as to our 4th floor center. Member Bartman also referred to that. And then we'll take the committee on a tour to see what exactly is happening. And maybe, when we get to either Groote Schuur or to Tygerberg, we should actually try and get maybe one of the doctors there to make use of the system where somebody dials up and where they actually sort of advise. And we can then even make that available, to see. But obviously there are some confidentiality given the fact that it's about the patients and stuff like that. But I'm sure the standing committee can definitely see to that. Then on the issue around the question raised by Member Bartman, particularly around the year beyond, obviously we work hand in hand with the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport. We also link it to the Premier's advancement of the youth program, and we work hand in hand with the Department of Education on that particular program. I mean, I fully agree with Member Bartman that as far as possible, we should have all our public facilities being manned by technical people. That's at the moment not possible. So if you go to any of these rural areas, if there's any issue in relation to the network or the computer, they can actually phone our central helpline. And in fact, I visited one last week out in Veldrift. And the person there that is manning the center, it's actually a Cape Access Center, indicated to me that if they've got any issues, I mean, our guys in Cape Town are quite responsive. We also have people sitting on a regional level. And then also what we are doing, obviously, if there's anything they can't do, we will then dispatch people to go and assist. And in fact, that Cape Access Center is right next to a library. And Hilton and his team is also now looking at how can we improve even connectivity where the libraries are connected to the Cape Access Centers. Because at the end of the day, it is about, expanding our footprint, but also expanding, and making information available to people out there. So Hilton, if you can just respond to the issue around the Dorset Clinic. Thanks.
Sure, DG. Chairperson, I am not aware of the issues at the Dorset, and thanks for raising it. We will send our team down there to assess what the issue is. And as the DG has made commitments, DG make the commitments, we need to deliver on that. So DG made a commitment that it will be sorted out by next week. And so we'll endeavor to honor that commitment by next week.
Mr. Arendse, can I just ask on that, if you will give us a progress on that your team has been there and that it is now sorted, please?
Sure, Chairperson, I can give that commitment. That will be feedback as soon as we've assessed it, and then also give you an update as soon as it's been resolved. I just cannot understand why the phone issue, why they have an issue with the phones, but we'll see what the situation is, and then we'll come back.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, DG. Member Marie, I know that your hand is still raised, sir. You want to pose another question?
Yes, this is a genuine hand, Chair. I just forgot to mention what, in terms of risk management, one of your biggest risks surely is Eskom. Now, when there's outages, what have you done to sort of still go? Do you have generators at these hospitals or at schools? Or what happens when there are outages? In terms of risk management, what are we prepared for?
Thanks, Member Marie.
That's my question.
Thanks, Member Marie. Member Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to clarify my previous question. I do know that the Premier's Department with the broadband unit does assist with the technical requirements of when, for example, Wi-Fi is down. And in fact, I was actually at a center when something like that happened, and the response from Cape Town is actually is really, really good. What I'm referring to is the Premier's Department assisting those year beyond and mod program learners with, for example, teaching maybe the after-school mathematics kids coding. For example, the DDAT department has free coding and like Google, and I can't remember what the other stuff is, like IBM or something, like courses online for free on their website from the Western Cape government. Arts and Culture has free programs on their website. WCD and Environmental Affairs have all free programs on their website regarding homework and coding and computers and IT, all of these things that the Western Cape government does offer. The problem is some of the people who do man those places don't know when a learner comes to them and they're like, okay, which website do I go to if I want to find extra Afrikaans or English or mathematics homework I can work on. They don't necessarily know where to go to do the course on IBM that's already for free and they can get a job one day with that IBM. They don't know where to go to the coding website that they can do for free with the Western Cape government that's already for free. So the people who do man the library, for example, needs to know the Dewey Decimal System. The person who monitors the computer doesn't just only need to know how Wi-Fi and the computer system works, but they need to know how to Google, how to create an email address, how to teach someone how to do PowerPoint, is those little things. And that was more what I was referring to compared to the technical, the system is down skills. Thank you.
Sure.
Member Marie, is that a legacy hand of yours? Okay, TG, Mr. Arendse, if you can respond. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Hilton, maybe just I'm going to give this to you to respond to what are we doing with regards to the Eskom stuff and with the uninterrupted power supply systems, particularly at our main sites. Maybe also just touch on the issue around what we're doing at our data center to make sure that, notwithstanding the Eskom issues, that we remain connected for a substantial amount of time. And then maybe on the last issue raised by Member Bartman, particularly around coding, skill transfer, etc. Thanks.
Sure. Thanks, DG. So I'll start with Member Marie's question in terms of power outages. Member Marie, that's a very important and very critical question, because that's an area that we're struggling with more and more. And I'll explain why I'm saying more and more. In all our facilities, in all our sites, we have generators, and we also have what we call the UPS, an uninterruptible power supply. So when the power goes down, the UPS kicks in and provides power to that specific infrastructure until the generator kicks in, and then we have continued power supply when the generated supply comes in. The challenge that we have, though, is because of the power outages becoming more frequent, we end up having our batteries of the UPSs not being able to recharge as quickly or sufficiently in order to maintain the power that it needs to before the generator kicks in. And you'll find a similar example or problem even at your home. Once stage 2 comes in too frequently and it goes to stage 3 and stage 4 in power outages, Vodacom, MTN, Cell C, those towers, those batteries cannot recharge quickly enough. And what happens is, all of us have experienced it, is that your network now drops in terms of the standard of the throughput that you can have. So it drops down right to edge in some cases. So yes, it is a challenge, but we are managing it in terms of the general supply, the general backup and storages that we have. As DG indicated, we also have a lot of our data stored in the cloud, and specifically at the Liquid Telecoms data center. We had a delegation went there a few weeks ago, where we looked at the backup supply that they have and the interventions that they have, and what are the continuity processes that's in place within Liquid Telecoms data center. And to us, we were highly comfortable and satisfied with the work that they've been done and the efforts that they've gone to make sure that their systems are up and running. So even if you cannot access the systems in this building, if our generators and our power is down, if you hook onto the cloud, if you break out, if you use an external network, so from your home, you'll also be able to access that specific service. So yes, from a business continuity, that's a strong focus area. However, it's not without risk. As I said, because of the frequency of the Eskom power outages, it does create that risk that our batteries might not be able to recharge quickly enough. And in some cases, with all of the power outages in the past, we've lost some but some expensive equipment that has blown because of power outages and power disruptions. So we are properly geared in that sense when it comes to our UPSs and generators. Remember, Bartman, when it comes to the HEBO, the Year Beyond and the MOD programs, and I do not want to go into the debate and discussion because I'm not 100% clear, because it seems as if the type of services and training that you require is actually pertaining to that specific service that they're rendering. And then we need to ask whether it's that department's responsibility to ensure that who's ever working in those specific facilities and the work that they're doing, where they're providing Afrikaans support, that it's the education department that needs to train those Year Beyond students. So we enable the department, we enable the learner, but it's dependent on either the DCAS or the Department of Education to make sure that those people know what sites to access. We do not know all the sites that everybody has to access. So it will be difficult for us from a technical perspective, and we provide the technical support to provide that service. We enable everything, and that's our key strength, and that's what we focus on. But then the education department and the learners need to do the research, and they need to work on that. But as the DJs indicated, we will take up the issue with DCAS and education, but we'll never be able to cover the full extent of everything that people need to be able to access. Thanks, CG. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Hilton. Back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that is the round of questions. Member Kleho, you were quite silent. No questions from you? No, it doesn't seem so. Okay. Members, thank you very much for all the questions that you have posed. Dr. Malila, Mr. Arendse, and your team, thank you very much for taking our questions so gracefully and answering it in all honesty. And we will definitely take up the offer of visiting. And we will speak to that now after you have left our meeting. But any closing remarks from you, sir? DG?
Chairperson, thank you very much. I mean, I was just typing a message now to my head of CI, which is Hilton, to, I think, put a program together, depending on what you will agree to as a committee, but a program where we can actually showcase what it is that we're doing. You can just tell us in which area, and we will then be available to do so. But I mean, our recommendation is definitely maybe a visit to one of our tertiary hospitals to see, look at the CI system or the IT system, and then definitely a visit to our 4th floor data IT center so that we can show you what is happening on the network of Western Cape government. That's also where we've launched the safety plan from last week ago, where the Premier launched the safety plan from, and it's quite impressive. You know, what is the kind of stuff that we are getting from all the users out there in the field, whether they are teachers, learners, people in hospitals, etc. But Hilton will also put something together, Chair. But from our side, thank you very much, and also thank you to my team, you know, for the preparation and I think for the professional way in which they've responded. So, Chair, from our side, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And please go well and have a safe weekend. And we shall say goodbye to you here now.
Thanks so much,
members,
Chairperson.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
Thank you.
members.
Bye-bye.
Then please stay behind to conclude. Members, we have had the presentation. We have asked the questions. I am asking any recommendations.
I would like to make a recommendation that we express our honest gratitude for the presentation to the department, and that we resolve to take up the offer to visit some of our tertiary hospitals. I have been advocating this for a long time, that we cannot have hospitals, even West Bank here, they gotta bring people to Somerset Hospital, and because the doctors there don't have the equipment, neither do they know how to treat certain injuries to people or even operations. And if they can get direct advice from Tygerberg or from Groote Schuur or Somerset or Red Cross Hospital, which are tertiary hospitals, the doctors might be able to perform certain operations and treatments in the platteland without bringing people here 300-400 kilometers away by ambulance, and the patients die en route. So I think we should take up the offer to go and visit some of these tertiary hospitals to just see how this operates. Eh?
Thank you very much, Member Marie. Member Bartman.
Thank you so much. Member Maria has covered my first request that we go for oversight to the Groote Schuur and Tiger hospitals to see these respective technological advancements, and perhaps even I know that, for example, at some of these hospitals, there are even robotics that the Western Cape government has acquired for health purposes. So perhaps we could even see the comprehensive technology that we've been acquiring over the past 2 to 3 financial years. Further, I would like to also see the oversight possibly to the tech center so that we can see how this is implemented. And I also just want us to note that we will need feedback, obviously, from the DG indicated he will take up the youth year beyond and mod matters with DCAS and WCED, but I'll also speak to colleagues on the other committees about it. And I know yourself, you also asked about Dorp Street clinics or Wi-Fi, so perhaps if we can just make sure that in writing we ask for feedback on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to latch on to both you and Member Marie. Before I go there, Member Klego, any recommendations from you? Nobody there?
Maybe left the meeting already.
Nobody there. Okay. I would want to latch on to both you and Member Marie. And yes, I want to agree that we embark on this visits. And I want to check with Wasima. Wasima, I'm checking the first date now, and Wednesday is an open day. If we could do the 27th of July, that's the first week that we come back after constituency period.
Noted, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And then also then use the next Wednesday as well, if we can. And I'm not sure what that date would be. But if you can, thank you very much, Wasima.
Yes, I'm just checking the program.
Okay, all right. And I'm sure for now there's nothing in, and that is regarded as a open day in the parliamentary program. And then also I'd like to ask, with the last parts that we have spoke to the DG2 in putting together a program, and I know that, excuse me, I know that in the cluster visit program, we only have one visit in regard to the Department of the Premier, the Access Center. If we could look, or if you can follow up with them, what is still in the Overberg region that we could perhaps get to, but also then this you would need to speak to the cluster. If we could, perhaps if there's something else of interest in regard to the broadband that we could visit in the Overberg region whilst we are there, so that we don't do another trip there. Then, in regard to our matters of today, I'm going to ask Wasima if she could put up the draft committee program, if she could beam it up, members. And then if we can then adopt the draft program as is or amend on what we have in it right now. Wasima? As you are aware, we only meet every second week. So almost twice a month that we meet. We are today on the 3rd of June that we have done now. Then we have another meeting because we have postponed last week. We have another meeting on the 10th. So please just ensure that your diaries, Masima, what's happening? That your diaries are open to it. And then members, we are trying as far as possible to use the morning slot. Now I want to check with you whether we could formally go to using the morning slot when it is our slot to meet and not on the Friday afternoon. And I'm taking your input.
What day is the 10th of June? Anybody?
It's next week Friday, Member Marie.
Okay, yes, I think that we should be guided by the chair.
Okay.
I'm happy to take the morning slot.
Okay. Member Bartman?
No, it is an order, Chair, since I was actually going to say in the afternoon slots every now and then Premier and Budget might have clashed. So if it's in the morning slot, it would actually work much better.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So I'll try as far as possible for us to put our slot in the morning on a Friday and every second Friday. Okay, thank you for that. Then we have the cluster week that is going to be from the leaving on the 20th, Wasima, and the actual program then starts on the 21st, right? You don't want to talk to me today.
No, Chair, Every time I'm talking back to you, it's still on mute. Apologies.
Okay. Then, members, the biggie is the public hearings or the amendment bill, the first amendment bill of the Western Cape Constitution. We need to talk to that. And I'm not sure whether you want to talk to it today. Up until now, 5 public hearings has been held. And I know when I became the chairperson of the standing committee, the process around this has been the previous chair with the committee has decided to do further public hearings, and Wasima, you must guide me whether I am correct. And we have since then, we have not spoken to the further public hearings, and I want to put it on the table today, and I want us to speak to this. So I'm taking input.
Is this about enlarging the legislature, Chair?
No, sir, that is another process. And for now, that process is not with us. That process is going to be, as you all know, with the ad hoc committee. And the names, if I can just give you some updates on what's happening there, those names for those persons who will serve on the ad hoc committee will be ATC today.
Oh.
So that is not in our domain.
Is this then the one
This
about
is the
the
one around
Environmental
the.
Commission?
That is correct, sir.
But that
So-
one is dead. He won't get 2/3. What's the use?
So, in regard to where we are, can we then agree that the number of public hearings that was held, that has been exhausted?
Yes.
We're not going to go back to public hearings.
Agreed.
I think if I may, if you allow me,
Yes, I'm allowing you.
there's no way that opposition parties are going to support that amendment for the environmental commissioner. So what's your purpose? You need a 2/3.
Okay, all right. So we agree then in this committee that the public hearings that has been built around it, that public hearings is exhausted. We're not going back there. Okay. Wasima?
Chair, I just want to maybe give the way forward on this program. For
Okay,
the
I was going to.
Oh.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
So, Chair, because most of the majority of the committee members are new and maybe not familiar with what happened at the public hearings. So I can provide all the documentations to the members, and then when the members come back together again at the next meeting, maybe we can just the committee can decide when they will go forward with the next step for the motion of desirability and the rest of the, because this process has to be like closed off now.
Yes.
There is no further public hearings. So I will give that, and the committee can just decide if they need a month or 2 just to read through the inputs and familiarize themselves with with the history of the public of this bill, and then we can go forward on the motion of desirability.
Okay. Yes, you took the way forward, that opportunity, because I was going to say that let us get the procedural officer to send us all the information around those public hearings that were held or around the process that was embarked on, so that we can familiarize ourselves with all the content. And then I am just thinking, and I'm thinking aloud, Do we have our first meeting on that Friday when we come back? What is it, Friday the 29th of July? Or we are, no?
So Chair, on the program, we have there is meetings. There's a I'm gonna just check if there's any clashes, but there is public accounts on the 27th of July, as well as Chairperson's Forum, which is the afternoon.
No, but the 27th is the one that we are going to do the visits on, right? That is that extra day that we have in the program.
So in the program, I just need to check that there's no
The
clashes.
29th.
The 29th is a budget committee meeting, yes, Chair. And in the afternoon, there's health, and then there's standing committee on finance. But I think that
Okay.
maybe myself and
So
you.
that's not our slot then. That week is not our slot.
No.
Then the following week becomes our slot.
So let me just check, Chair. On the 5th of August, I see health has already booked that date already. But I think, Chair, that myself and you and Michaela can just discuss and see if we can find a gap, because on the Tuesday, even though the Wednesday's taken and our slot is taken, maybe we can see, because there's nothing in for the 26th of July.
Okay, all right. Member Bartman?
Chair, for that second week, can we not do it after health in the afternoon? Because some of us do have to attend the health oversight or briefing that morning anyway. So the afternoon will obviously be open because we are trying to move Premier up when there's no meeting in the morning. So if there is a meeting in the morning, I think we can still meet in the afternoon after health.
Okay, so that then still becomes the 29th of July.
Chair, the Standing Committee on Finance and Economic Opportunities, I must just check if there's any clashes, because there's a meeting with Westkro on that afternoon from 2 till 5.
Oh, okay. But in regard to our assigned times, we are supposed to sit on the 29th of July, aren't we? In regard to our assigned times anyway.
I don't know how these, obviously these things were consulted with, I'm not sure if you were the chief whip at the time, and these dates were locked down a while ago. So I'm not sure, we must maybe just have a meeting with Michaela, Chair.
Okay, I will have a conversation with Michaela, because we anyway supposed to be meeting on a bi-weekly basis as prescribed, and our bi-weekly basis at the time is in the afternoon on a Friday, and my calculation says to me that we are actually supposed to have our meeting on the 29th of July, but I will confirm and come back in regard to that. Member Bartman, your hand is raised.
No, Chair, I just want to say that you are correct. That in front of us is week 1. Health ends at 12 o'clock. The 2 o'clock finance meeting is in the economic cluster, so that's irrelevant to us, the economic one. So we can still meet at 2 o'clock as long as there are no clashes, but to my knowledge, there's no clashes with Premier and the people who sit on finance, eco, opportunities and tourism. The only clash that there might have been is if budget and Premier to sit at the same time, but they do not. So there's no reason we can't sit on the afternoon on that day, because it is week 1 for Premier.
Yeah, okay, so I am correct. Thanks, Member Martman. So, Wasima, if you could plot then, or you could give indication to Michaela as well that we will sit, and we will then sit from 2 to 5 on that Friday.
Chair, you want to sit or do you want to go on an oversight visit?
No, I said the oversight visit, we will use the Wednesday open slot. So for that week, that's the first week that we are back from constituency period. So that Wednesday, we go to the Grote Skuur and that visit. Because it's that Wednesday an open slot. But the Friday is our standing committee meeting slot.
Okay.
So we use that slot. And then we use it then from 2 to 5 on that day. Yeah. Okay. Then I think we're going to stop with Wasima, just July. What is happening in the rest of July? So it's all to be confirmed to what?
No, Chair, we must remove the public hearings now.
Yeah, we must remove that.
So we'll have the 27th of July.
20, we have 27 and we'll have 29.
9th. Yeah. And the 29th
And we'll have 29.
July. And then this will be the morning slot.
Yeah.
This will be the oversight visit.
No, other way around.
Oh, yeah. So, Chair, you'll go to the 4th floor, oversight visit.
And we'll go to the Grote Schuur.
And then
What is the 4th floor? I didn't get that about the 4th floor.
it's the IT Premier's department, 4th floor. I'll just get the name of the section, the director, that I will correct it.
Okay.
Okay, and then the meeting. Chair, is the, do we want to add the way forward for the hearings also on this? I mean, for the constitutional bill on the same.
We just say there that the discussion would be the progress on the amendment, Western Cape First Amendment bill. On the progress of the Western Cape First Amendment bill. Okay, yeah, they can work. Okay.
I'll fine tune it soon. Okay, then Chair, then August, we must just check what is our date for August.
Okay, but can I ask whether committee's indulgence in regard to August, whether I could then further have discussions on content with Wasima, or if you have a subject that we have to bring in front of the committee, if you can also then forward to Wasima.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I would just want to hear from the chair.
Yes.
Subject for discussion.
Yeah.
Are we bold enough to discuss every time the whole issue of devolution of powers to the province, which the Premier always mentions, and even Minister Meyer, he said in Parliament that the DA's position is they support subsidiarity. I looked at the constitution of the Freedom Front and it always says that they support subsidiarity. These words are thrown around in the public domain and the people are confused on just what is subsidiarity and what is federalism. And I think we as leaders should guide the public opinion on these issues. Do you think that we can invite people to address us on it and have a discussion on it, the merits or demerits, or what's it all about?
Or to just understand the difference.
Excuse me?
Or to understand the difference.
Correct. And let us put this out there and show some leadership, except of bombarding people with words that the people are confused about. They're even now saying, but the DA and the Freedom Front, they stalk the same policies, so but none of them explain it. So do you think we are bold enough to discuss it? Or get somebody, an expert, to come and explain to us?
Member Partman, I'll come back to you now, Member Murray.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, since we are a multi-party forum representing everyone and not just one or two political parties, my suggestion is that we actually ask the legal department of the Premier and the department and the Premier perhaps even to maybe address us on the matter, since they represent the whole Western government and not just, I don't want the people of the Western Cape to feel that we're only discussing one or two manifestos. Let's rather take it from a governance perspective, understanding what the different things mean, and maybe even have the Premier and their legal team explain from which departments, which programs, which units is this subsidiarity or even federalism already maybe even taking place, and how do we see it play out in service delivery? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That might be an idea, Member Marais, to get our legal eagles to come and address us on that. And
Chair,
then,
I thought that it's well understood that this committee is an all-party committee, so I don't know what Honourable Bartman means when he said it's not a two-party debate. No committee only has two parties on, so obviously the EFF will be here and the ANC will be here. I said they must address the committee.
yeah, we will be addressed. It will be addressed to the committee, and yes, you are correct that we are a multi-party committee. We have always said that we are multi-party committees.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's unnecessary actually to say that we must invite all parties. The parties are already invited.
Okay, we're not going to have a back and forth on it, but I get the gist of you and I get the gist of Member Bartman. And between myself and the procedural officer, we will get the correct wording for it. I just want to also check with you the appetite from you to maybe have Stats SA invited to our standing committee. Also just to hear what how the counting, population counting has gone. Do you have appetite for that?
In order
for us to be addressed by them? Okay, so we can look at that as well during the month of August, perhaps. And then I think we're going to then stop here in regard to that. And then Mosima, you and I can also just find a slot to get the correct wording for the content on the discussions that we have had for our program. If that is in order. Okay, thank you very much for the thumbs up. Member Klecho, are you still here? Anyway, Member Klecho has been silent today. Member Marais, your mic is on and off. I want to conclude.
No. You may conclude, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, I want to say to you, thank you very much for joining the Standing Committee meeting this morning. And I want to say to our procedural officer and the assistant procedural officer, thank you very much for the logistics around making the Standing Committee meeting happen. And now I see Wasima has raised her hand.
Chair, I just want us to, the committee not to forget to conclude, to adopt.
To adopt the report. Yeah. Okay.
All the documents that is going to be tabled today.
Okay. Members, can I just ask in regard to the, and it's my apology for this that I didn't do it now. Can we just adopt the committee report with the amendments that we have indicated for this committee report? Who's the thumbs up? Member Bartman?
in order, I move to support.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you, Member Marais, for seconding. Okay, and then the draft committee minutes. Members, you have received these minutes.
Only today.
No, man, it has been circulated quite some time. Wasima?
No,
Yes, Chair.
It has been circulated, Member Marais, quite some time
ago already.
You didn't take into account outages. I only received it late.
Maybe from Member Marie.
Member Marie will give you that benefit of the doubt, but the day has been
But
circulated.
not
a
from me,
long
Mr.
time
Marie.
ago.
He never received it today from me.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, page 1, and just ensure that your attendance or apology has been recorded correctly. Thank you, page 2. Wasima, if you can just put pages if it's multiple pages next time.
The page
Thank you
numbers
very
are there,
much.
Chair.
Hey, I don't see it. Thank you, members. That is the minutes. If I can have a proposer and a seconder. I can't vote on this document. Yes, you were not a member.
You were the chairperson.
Hey?
You were the chairperson.
I was a chairperson, so it's only myself here and Member Marie. Was Member Marie not? Member Marie's additional. Was he not in the meeting that day?
Member Kleko was there.
Always in a meeting.
And Member Kleko.
And Member Maseko.
Member Kleko. I
If
don't know.
an additional member can vote, then I will vote.
Well,
Chair,
yes.
Member Bartman or Member Maseko may, because they have taken the full positions of the previous members, and if they've read it and it's in order, then they may adopt.
Oh, okay.
Chair, I just want to indicate that is not my understanding of minutes. It is my understanding of, for example, a committee annual report. Only those who are in a meeting can support the minutes of a meeting. But I can, for example, support the annual report now that I'm a permanent member.
Chair, based on the rules, the members were handed over. Basically, there was a change of membership. So if there was the handover from the one member to the next member, you're taking full position of that member to basically act on their behalf. But now you're not acting on their behalf. You're actually in their position. You've taken their role. And if you've read and got the handover, then you may support. But Chair, even you were present, you don't need a seconder on minutes. You may propose to adopt and the minutes may be adopted.
Okay, so we move for the latter part. I propose that we adopt the minutes. Then we don't have to come back. Thank you. Then we have another set of minutes.
We're just going to do the quarterly, Chairperson. There's 2 quarterlies.
Okay, the quarterlies also, we come in at the latter part of this quarterly report.
Yes,
those
Chair.
of us that are here, except for Member Klego. Sorry, this is my dog now. Members and Member Marie, this document was also circulated with the minutes that you only got today. Okay. And the table below is for the amendment to the Constitution, Western Cape Constitution. Yeah. Is it? Yes.
The Chair, we are the quarterlies are being tabled with the budget as well as the tracking documents that's attached. So if members are adopting, they're adopting the budget as well as the tracking document.
And there's nothing outstanding on the tracking document, right?
No, Chairperson.
Okay, we are up to date.
Yep.
Okay. All right, can I have a proposer and a seconder to adopt the quarterly? I have Member Bartman And I see Member Marie has also left us.
I move to adopt.
Thank you, Member Bartman. Member Klejo is back. Member Klejo.
I second, Chairperson. Sorry, man.
Thank you
I've
very-
got
Do you
network
have issues with your...
Yeah, my network, yeah.
Oh, it's your network.
Yeah, but I follow up, but it's just that when I'm talking, then you
Okay.
don't seem to hear me.
Okay, but if you have recommendations on the presentation that you have had, please don't you want to send it to Wasima? Because you did not have an opportunity to speak.
All right, I will do so. I will do so, Chair.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Thank you, Wasima. Okay, this is the report, and this is also some of the historical info when we were not part of this committee, right? Because this is an overview. Members, this is also a document that you have received with the others. Can I have a proposer and a seconder? Member Bartman, I note your hand.
I move to adopt.
Thank you very much.
I second, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Klejo. Thank you, Wasima, on that document. Okay. That is all the documentation that we had to adopt, Wasima?
Yes, Chairperson.
Yes. Okay. Members, I want to say thank you very much for joining. And Member Klejo, please take up the opportunity to send your recommendations to Wasima as you have not had an opportunity to post questions in the meeting. IT, thank you very much for your assistance. Masintle, thank you. Members, please go well and have a safe, wonderful, restful weekend. Some of you I will see in the adopting of the Cluster A report at 12:30. Thank you very much. Go well.
Thank you. Bye.
This meeting is adjourned.